How many of you got to see Sam Adagi in the flesh? Oh, a few of you, good. I'm not alone, I did too. For those of you newer members, Sam was a former beloved member and also an NPS student. I got to see him in November 2021, and this was still during COVID times, so it was a big deal to get to see him in person. And when he left my office, he gave me a huge hug, and I will tell you why in a minute. Last July, I became VPE for both NPS and Carmel Improv Toastmasters. My NPS VPE predecessor, Laura McAllanese, helped me set up the first couple meetings to get me going. She also gave me an Excel spreadsheet to track everyone's pathways progress. We also use Easy Speak to run our meetings, and she gave me quite a few other helpful items. Tatiana helped me make a format in Easy Speak for a 2-speaker agenda, and I ended up using that the entire year. Thank you, Tatiana. I learned how to approve levels in both Basecamp and Toastmasters International. And this means one has to be really meticulous. We've got to pick the right person, the right pathway, and the right level. After a few months, I noticed that Stacy Steele and Sam both had finished levels, but they hadn't submitted them. So I worked with Stacy over Zoom and Sam in person, and we got 2 levels each submitted for both of them. Those 4 levels help us towards our progress for President's Distinguished Status. And that's when Sam gave me a big hug. Carrie also helped us towards that status with her level 5. She thought she was done once she gave her level 5 speech, but it turns out she still had to give reflecting her path. And then once she gave that, I realized she also hadn't given a level 4 speech. So poor thing gave 3 speeches back to back. And to Carrie's credit, she never complained and never got upset and stuck with me when I was a stickler about her finishing every project. Thank you, Carrie. Besides pathways, one of the duties of VPE is working with new members to get them comfortable with the easier roles like timer or all counter. And I also like to nudge them to give their icebreaker. After they become more comfortable, I like to encourage them to take on more advanced roles like Toastmaster of the Day, General Evaluator, Table Topics Master. Some examples of me nudging one was with Yoko. I asked her to be vote counter, and Yoko, being a good Toastmaster, said yes, but she needed help with she needed some guidance with her Google Forms. She hadn't used it before. And after a few times practicing, she had it down pat and was very successful at the role. Ursula and I met to go over Table Topics Master. And even though I didn't get to actually be at the meeting where she ran Table Topics the first time, I heard she did very well. Lisa also wanted to pick a different pathway. She had what most people pick, which is presentation mastery. So we met and she went over her different options. And I think she ended up picking one of the leadership pathways. Unfortunately, Sean's mentor, Fred, needed to take a little bit of a break. And I knew Rich was in his coaching pathway and he needed a mentee. So I was able to match those 2 up, and that ended up going really well, I think. So how about scheduling meetings? Well, for the first 8 months or so, I did the traditional way of letting people sign up when they wanted to. And I would send out individual emails to those who hadn't spoken in a while to try to get them to sign up. But I was struggling to get 1, much less 2 speakers to sign up. So that's when Carl asked me to assign speaking roles. Greg offered to meet with me and show me how his other club does this. And he actually spent quite a bit of time with me, which I'm really grateful for. And I have to admit, initially I was dreading this because I thought I was going to get a lot of pushback from people and I thought I was going to get a lot of complaints. And surprisingly, I only received 1 complaint and the transition went really smoothly. That being said, there are some people who I don't think ever looked at my draft schedules, my final schedule, or Easy Speak, and you know who you are. And I think Rich might know what I'm talking about at this point. He might be experiencing some of this. Speaking of this, Rich is my successor now, our VPE for the next year. He's a DTM and he's going to do an excellent job. We actually still have a couple of levels that people have done but haven't submitted. So I won't name names, but you should be expecting some nudges, gentle nudges from Rich. Mr. Toastmaster.